To Canaan's land, I'm on my way where the soul never dies. My darkest night will turn to day where the soul never dies.
Welcome to Bluegrass Brooklyn, our podcast all about the music we love, straight from the Bluegrass borough of Brooklyn, New York.
Where all in peace is joy and love and the soul never dies.
Welcome to special edition number 2 of Bluegrass Brooklyn. I'm your host, Mike Wilner. In these special editions, we will be exploring topics related to and supporting our favorite music, and we're presenting them because we find them interesting. We hope you will as well. Today, we speak to Pete Ludé from the California Bluegrass Association. So why are we talking to someone from California? Well, we ran into Pete at the International Bluegrass Music Association Business Conference last week, and we learned that the association does very important work and plays an important role in our music on a national scale. They support programs that provide instruments to musicians who need them, that go into prisons and connect incarcerated individuals with learning music, after-school programs, all kinds of stuff which will help build and sustain our music. And we felt that you might find it interesting. So let's give a listen to what Pete has to say. But before we go, please follow us at Bluegrass Brooklyn. Brooklyn is spelled BKLYN on Instagram. Or visit us, bluegrassbrooklyn.com. You can check out jams in Uptown Manhattan, Riverdale, and the Bronx. bluegrassjamsnearme.com. Oh, and by the way, our intro music was Where the Soul of Man Never Dies by Rick Snell and the Six Deadly Venoms on their The Lucky and the Losers album. So let's hear what Pete has to say. Here we are with Pete Ludé, Executive Director of the California Bluegrass Association. First of all, Pete, thanks a lot for taking time with us.
Thanks, Mike. Really appreciate the chance to be here.
Have you settled in from that great week at IBMA in Chattanooga?
It's going to take a while. So much good music, so many great people, and lots of inspiration from both the artistic and the business side of things.
Yeah. Let's start here. We got to listen to you make a presentation and a speech at the IBMA. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what you were talking about there?
Yeah, well, CBA's California Bluegrass Association has been very involved with the IBMA for decades. We're proud to be a co-sponsor of the Industry Awards Luncheon, where all the behind-the-scenes people are recognized. And as part of that, I got to explain to the audience a little bit about what California Bluegrass Association is doing and to introduce the featured band that we selected for this, which this year was the Sullivan Sisters. I think
Yes.
They did a fantastic job. And as I like to say, it gives us a chance when we're out there in Chattanooga, Tennessee, to remind the audience that the high and lonesome sound doesn't stop at the Rocky Mountains. It goes all the way out to the coast and worldwide. And California Bluegrass Association is one of the largest membership bluegrass groups in the world. So we really want to contribute and we really want to have people involved.
Yeah, I was impressed when you started cycling through the programs the association sponsors and partners with. I'm New York based. I come from Brooklyn, the Bluegrass borough. So I'm always thinking like, why am I listening to this guy from California? What's that got to do with me? But I started understanding once you were speaking what that did have to do with me. So why don't we hit on a couple of the top programs the association sponsors or partners with?
Yeah, well, first of all, it's our 50th anniversary, I should say. California Bluegrass Association actually filed its official paperwork back in 1974 and got operational in 1975 and held our first festival back in 1976. That's the Father's Day Bluegrass Festival, which has gone on every year at the same location at the same weekend, other than a couple of inconvenient pandemic online years.
Yeah.
So we're very proud to do that festival. But like with many organizations around the country, most of what we were doing is sort of preaching to the choir. We had a bunch of men and women that love to get out their instruments and pick at the pizza parlor once a month and do
Yeah.
jams and campouts. And we realize that that is fantastic, but there's so many other people that deserve to be exposed to bluegrass music and haven't been. So around the pandemic time, we kind of took on an initiative to reach out more to fulfill our mission. Our mission is to preserve and promote bluegrass and to build community around the music. We started out with things like the Bluegrass Bridge program, which is bringing bluegrass music and instruments and instruction to incarcerated individuals at state penitentiaries. We've been out to a couple of state penitentiaries. We've loaned out about a dozen, not loaned, but donated a dozen instruments to the Avenal State Prison down in Central California. And we've had performances 3 times at the various institutions to inspire. And we call it the bridge because a lot of these incarcerated folks need to come back out into the real world. And we're trying to help a little foundation that allows them to connect, to make music friends, and to learn some new skills that will treat them well as they get back into the regular world. Another example is the BEAR Fund. That stands for Bluegrass Entertainer and Artist Relief Fund. And we had a very generous donor that said, I'd like to find ways to help some of these people that are stricken by illness or injury and incapacitated. So we launched a program working with all the proper legal framework to be able to give grants to those bluegrass individuals, people that are it could be artists, instructors, performers, songwriters, anywhere in the country that are all of a sudden hit by an illness and they need to have medical attention or they're out of work for 6 months and they could apply for a grant under the BEAR Fund. And so we've been doing that program. It's been quite well received. We've given out about 10 grants so far. We have, of course, our youth program, including lending library, where we have about 300 instruments that have been donated or purchased, and we make those available to youth that are interested in exploring and learning music. Another new one is Spectrum Bluegrass. We've had a couple of our members say that they have been affected by the autism spectrum, and some very proudly, and say, I've kind of realized that's what makes me who I am. And as I look around, I think that there's an overrepresentation of individuals on the neurodiversity spectrum that are enjoying old time and bluegrass music. I wonder if there's something we could do for them. So starting with that, we launched our Spectrum Bluegrass. We've had get-togethers in clubs. We put together a Spectrum Bluegrass band that played a major fundraiser down at the Greek Theater in Los Angeles a few months ago with a bunch of big stars. And we're creating a lot of interest about that. We'll be meeting again coming up. And then the last one I'd mention is the newest, which is called the After School Bluegrass Club, or ABC, by CBA. Get it? So it's kind of like
I got it.
And what that is, it's frankly inspired by the Junior Appalachian Musicians Jam program, where they have found a way to work with various nonprofits to bring bluegrass music into classrooms weekly around the area. In that case, it was Appalachia. In our case, it's throughout California. So we have 2 programs now in place, one in southern Humboldt County, which is very hard hit economically, and one in western Sonoma County, which is still largely agricultural. And in both those areas, we have weekly classes that are offered in conjunction with another nonprofit. We work on the curriculum, the background checks, the fundraising, instructor curriculum, all that kind of stuff in order to bring bluegrass to more kids. And then hopefully they come out to the festival and join our youth program.
Well, that is commendable on all counts. I heard an interesting statistic the other day, and I wonder what your perspective would be. This had to do with sports. I think this was an NFL player who sponsors after-school programs for kids for sports. And he said that they learned that the graduation rate of kids who get involved in sports, and this is underserved kids, and I think it was in Chicago, I'm pretty sure it was Chicago, went from 50% to 90%, thereabouts, if they got and stayed involved with sports. How do you think that same statistic would reflect if we talked about music rather than sports?
It's very high, and there has been some extensive research on this. I'd have to go back to the books to get the exact, but I think it's very much in the same ballpark. The idea is what you're doing is you're engaging students and having them use a different part of their brain and having them open up in an artistic fashion and feeling a sense of confidence that wouldn't otherwise be there. So somebody that really doesn't have too much of a home, that they don't see much reason for school, and it's not connecting with them, could all of a sudden be extraordinarily engaged. One of our inspirations has also been we've had a couple of CBA youth instructors who happen to be classroom teachers. One of them, a guy named Jared Katz, is a schoolroom teacher down in on the coastal areas south of San Francisco. And for about a dozen years now, he's just brought a bunch of instruments, and we provided them for him into his classroom and started to have kids come in. They come in before school, during lunch break, after school. He's put together bands. The bands have gone on to win contests. And even those folks that didn't, stick with music for a long term, made it as kind of a backdrop to their life. It's another hobby. It's another way of connecting with friends. So they've had hundreds of kids go through that program just informally. And it's been like this universal benefit that everyone has really come away in a much better space. And in California, like in many states, governments had to cut back on funding for the performing arts in classrooms. So there's been like this gap, this dearth of these opportunities, as there are often in sports. And as a nonprofit, we said that's something that we really should figure out a way to get involved with. We've been working on it for a few years. And as you can imagine, with all the bureaucracy and the funding and the logistics, it is not easy. But we stuck with it. We have some great volunteers, and we figured out a way to get this program into schools. We're in 2 now. We hope to be within 3 or 4 more over the next year, and to expand this and build capacity for it. If you want to learn more, all this information is available on our website, which is easy to remember, californiabluegrass.org.
Yep.
And if you go to the programs page, you'll see all these things spelled out. If you would like to support that, we'd love to have you as a part of our team. Volunteering, kicking in a few bucks, it all goes to a very good cause. And californiabluegrass.org will tell you all about it.
Yeah, we'll make sure to drop that in the program notes. I was going to ask you if the listeners wanted to get involved, and of course, donating money is an important way. But I'm thinking mostly of listeners who aren't in California and it's not convenient to them to be involved with local events. But how could listeners across the country and across the world get involved and support, as well as donating money? But what else could we help with?
Well, great question. As you know, nonprofits are not going through their best time right now with the cutback in some of the grants and what have you, but we're hanging in there hard. And yes, we really have a great community of people that help out. And there's a number of ways that may not be immediately obvious. For instance, donating your old instruments to our youth lending library. Those are put to good use. We've got instruments in from David Grisman, gave us a bunch of great mandolins.
Wow.
Right now, we're really short on half-size basses. There's a big demand on the next generation of bass players. And you want to see that happen, don't you?
Oh, yeah, we need those bass players.
We need to start them young, and so we need those half size. But any of those old instruments are really appreciated. We also have volunteers all over the country because they can help out. A lot of what we're doing is grant writing, it's budget analysis, it's marketing, creating graphics, it's writing for our award-winning newsletter, the Bluegrass Breakdown, which comes out every month. And so we have folks that help us out with ad sales, with strategic planning. And if you have some skills and you'd like to put them to good use, especially in the education area, we have Zoom calls all the time. If somebody's in California, of course, we have events all over the state. We could always use people's help. And, donations are always a great thing. We have programs that you could donate your car to California Bluegrass Association. We have a lot of folks who just kick in what they can. And it makes a big difference because, as I say, we have a very small overhead. All that money is going directly to help out kids and incarcerated individuals and to our Bear Fund and to all the things that we're doing to try to give back to the community. And we invite you to be part of it.
That's really worthy. I feel like music is a powerful unifying force. It's one of the activities that creates person-to-person connections and group connections immediately. And in bluegrass, especially where we have our jam circles and it's built around the community. This is an important way for us to help each other out. Do you have any upcoming events that you'd like to note?
Yeah, we do. I don't want to make it sound like we're all, in some big tower trying to do nonprofit-y stuff to help out people. And that's all we do because we all got into it because of the music and the community. I mentioned that CBA is one of the larger membership organizations in the world with almost 3,000 members now. And every one of them likes to pick, frankly. And so we accommodate that. If you happen to find yourself anywhere near the West Coast, you might think about coming to our South State 48. That's 4 days of jamming in Carlsbad, California,
Nice.
just north of San Diego. It's right on the coast. Beautiful area, lots to do and see. We take over the Carlsbad by the Sea Hotel. And in every hallway, courtyard, swimming pool, we have jams and workshops, and we have a band contest, and we have concerts at night. It's just a great chance for people to get together. It's not a festival in that we have a lot of formal presentations and a big stage. We have informal concerts, open mics, workshops with super instructors. And that is November 6th through 9th. And it's called South State 48. And again, you could go to californiabluegrass.org to learn about all these things. The next one comes up at the beginning of January, January 15th through 18th, and that's in Bakersfield, California. You may have heard of the Bakersfield Sound. Well, we want to acknowledge that as well. And this is an event we've been putting on for about 15 years now called the Great 48. And it's called the 48 because it used to start out with 48 hours of jamming, 2 days. And then we said, well, that's not enough. Let's do 3 days. Let's do 4 days. So it starts Thursday through Sunday, January 15th through 18th. And in this case, we're taking over the Marriott Bakersfield Hotel and having jamming, lots of workshops. There's a Warnock Method jam class, open mic, concerts, performances, instrument raffle. So it's just a ton of wonderful things. And a lot of well-known folks show up to jam with us in the lobby. January 15th through 18th, Great 48. And then I'll just mention, if you're planning your summer vacation next year, we have 2 music camps and a festival down in Southern California. The Julian Family Fiddle Camp takes place May 5th through 10th next year. It's called a fiddle camp, and it's all the instruments in a beautiful town of Julian, which has a long fiddle history in the mountains above San Diego. It's just about an hour from the San Diego airport. And it's a long history of terrific music and a great chance to immerse yourself in a beautiful part of the country and work on those flat picking skills, your mandolin, your fiddle playing, your banjo, and all that. That launches in November. All the information will be on the website, and you'll learn more about it then. And then in June, from the 14th through 17th, we have our summer music camp up in Grass Valley in Northern California, followed by the very famous Father's Day Bluegrass Festival. That's June 18 through 21.
Wow,
And
there's a lot going on.
we like to brag that I think this is the only bluegrass festival that has a Grammy Award-winning song about it. Molly Tuttle's Grass Valley commemorated this festival because this is where she grew up.
Nice. So now I think you've given me an excuse to plan a trip to California. So thank you for that. Appreciate it. I'm really impressed with what's going on in the CBA, and I'm really glad we got a chance to talk about it a bit. We're going to drop the website and all of that into the program notes, so if folks want to follow up and find out more, they can. So any words of advice or wisdom for someone who may be thinking about going the nonprofit route to help support and promote our favorite music?
Great question. I think most importantly, all nonprofits now could use a little bit of help. So find one in your local community, find something that you enjoy doing, see if you can put it in an hour or 2 a month and just help out. And what I'm directing our team on is look at the impact that it makes. It's great to say, I'll help fold the chairs after the jam, and people need that. But what we're trying to do is use a metric that says, how are we making the world a better place to live in? And how can I prioritize the time that we spent and the expenditures of our resources and money? So keep that in mind as you're helping out your local nonprofit, saying, what could I do to make the world a better place? Because in my opinion, it kind of needs to be at the moment.
Yeah. Okay. Well, good advice, sage advice. Pete, I want to thank you very much for taking time. And I hope we cross paths again before the next IBMA, maybe in California, San Diego, or near San Diego, or wherever. And I look forward to speaking to you again.
Thanks so much, Mike. Really a pleasure. And thanks for everything you do to help promote the music.
Hey, I'm really glad we got to speak with Pete. and hear all about the California Bluegrass Association. Check out our program notes for information about that. We'll be putting out our regular full-length episode later this week. You can tune in and hear that. Remember to follow us at Bluegrass Brooklyn, spelled BKLYN, on Instagram. Visit bluegrassbrooklyn.com. Check out Bluegrass Jams Near Me for information about jams in New York City. And to take us out, we're going to listen to Another Empty Bottle by Raven and Red from their We Rise Up album. We look forward to seeing you around the Jam Circle.